never come back again. It's got a death curse. It's got a death curse.
Drop.
Welcome into the mother flippin' Death Curse Club. I am host, entrepreneur, and owner of this establishment, Zach Hilton. And along with me, yet another week. He can't commit for a weekly thing, but he will commit on the day of Jim.
Ba weep grana weep nitty bon.
What?
Somebody out there knows.
Oh, God. Well, somebody over here does not. So I do appreciate you on that. Welcome to Death Curse Club. Instagram, Threads, Death Curse Club. We're on Thrill Me Lounge on Facebook, so check us out there. Subscribe to this YouTube. We're on Spotify, podcasts, apps, whatever, galore. Whatever is your dig, that's where we are. So check us out. Thanks for coming in. Jim, wowie. I originally was like, we're going to do simple episodes, nothing really too crazy out there. So much so that I knew we would talk a little news and then get into our big subjects. But the past couple of days has been nonstop horror news in my mind. So I feel today is just going to be big old episode of news and our thoughts on these properties going forward. We have Pamela Voorhees for the future Crystal Lake show coming out on Peacock. We got Texas Chainsaw Massacre down the line probably. We also got some trailer drops. We got all these things, and we're going to get into those right now. And what I want to start with are two things. Trailers came out. One for the film Drop, which had a trailer a couple of months back, and as well as Final Destination Bloodlines. Did you watch either of those trailers today?
I watched the Final Destination one.
Good call, because here's the thing. As hyped as I am about Drop, and I even shared it on the socials, Death Curse Club, I did not watch said trailer. And the reason why is because, A, I think that first trailer did a phenomenal job of selling me on the movie. I am scared on what they spoil in this trailer. And I will not know until after I see Drop, which comes out in like April 17th. So we're less than a month away. But yeah. I did not realize how hyped I am for that movie, even with just one trailer. What are your thoughts on Drop?
Yeah, the first trailer was pretty good. As far as potential spoilers, I mean, yeah, that's the problem with these 3-4 trailers and the fact that people want to see everything in horror movies, especially. That they just shove everything in there. Right.
No, absolutely. But a second movie had a trailer come out today. And this one I was prepared for. This one I heard that the trailer was coming soon. They showed the first official photo of Tony Todd. That's right. His return to Final Destination property. We have a new trailer for Final Destination Bloodlines. And there he is right there. There's Tony Todd doing this Tony Todd thing. And I did a reaction to this on the Death Curse Club channel. So if you want to get my initial thoughts for this trailer, go to Death Curse Club's YouTube or just look at the description. I'll have it in there, I think. Maybe, if I remember. We'll find out. But they can see my reaction. What are your thoughts on this trailer, Jim?
The trailer was pretty good.
Trailer was pretty good.
No, I mean, I guess it gave us more plot and everything that we were missing from the original teaser, so we at least know what we're getting into. It's funny when they first showed the older lady, my first thought was, am I supposed to know who this is? And then 100%. When it kind of does the flashback scene or whatever, I thought to myself, oh, it's the lady from Drop.
It's just Drop. We're watching Drop.
I was like, that's what it is. I was like, is it the same basic synapse place? You know, it's the, you know, the restaurant.
Yeah, that Seattle needle kind of thing. Yeah, the needle.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I like that. No, I thought the same thing was okay, who is this supposed to be? And I feel like she's far too old to be some kind of member of the family of the originals. And then when it flashes back to like, I'm guessing the 60s, 50s or whatever, I kind of was like, because when I heard Final Destination Bloodlines, I thought the Bloodlines would be more family oriented to someone that we followed in previous movies. And I'm not getting a grasp of that. In the trailer, they show the plane, like a drawing. The book has like all the events. So obviously all the events are going to be in this. And they're, the young lady, she's setting up all this map of like, so my grandma started here and it's gone all the way here. So we're going to see all the events. But Jim, do you think we're being, I don't want to say misled because they haven't really led us to anything, but do you think there's going to be more prominent roles of the previous movies than what it's letting on, besides just like, see, this happened, let's follow the story?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think I'm fine with it not really tying into the other movies. I think by doing what they're doing, it is mixing up the formula a little bit, because now it's not just, hey, I saw a thing and now I'm going to try to stay alive. It has nothing to do with those. Like, those characters have nothing to do with it. They're just kind of having to deal with what their grandmother did, essentially.
Yeah, well, yes, these characters, yeah.
Yeah, so they don't have anything to do. And then the book passing through, because the grandmother's been around and tracking all this stuff. So I don't think it really is going to tie in anything going
Interesting.
forward. I think it's just basically the Bloodlines has to do with just the fact that, hey, like, she survived this whole time, and now the kids are going to have to deal with the sins of the grandmother.
Yeah, no, I mean, fair point, and that does seem to give that kind of theory towards the trailer, is that this family should not exist because that grandmother should be dead. And I kind of like the idea of like, what do you do with people that shouldn't be alive? They should be dead. So should I be rooting for death in this? And is that the kind of mantra of a horror movie? Like beginning or later Friday the 13th movies, we're like, oh, we're rooting for Jason to kill these people. So are we supposed to root for death to kill these people because they should not be here? They're eating up our land, our wages, our food. Wow, that went on a tyrant.
I mean, we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out, I guess.
I mean, I'm into it. At the same point, I'm apprehensive because the Final Destination series hasn't been one of my favorites. Like, I enjoyed 1, 2 is 2, but 3 was really fun. And then I start to fall off. I do. And I said this in my reaction. Like, I know one of them has a fun twist that I'm not going to give away, which I think is a neat idea, but I don't know. I'm just not completely sold yet.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. I'll watch it. People laugh. People like to laugh when people get killed, and that's what they enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. There we go.
Tony Todd looks old as hell.
Tony Todd does look old as hell.
But he was sick for a really long time, and we can see that there. I mean, he's super thin.
It is blatant. Like, you could tell he is not doing well, which is sad, but like, wow, like at least he gets to live on screen one last time as this character, as a horror icon as he is. I absolutely love that you get one more ride with him in a role he's well known for. Right. All right, let's move on to the next subject at hand. It wouldn't be Tuesday if we didn't get another Buffy revival thing. I told you through text that it was being said that the main character would be this character named Nova in the Buffy verse. So like, obviously Buffy is going to be a side character, but there are more characters in this. It's saying that her father, Abe, who is a wealthy, awkwardly nerd, is going to be in this. Hugo, who is best friends of Nova, lore-loving Gracie, a confident jock named Cole, and a librarian, Mr. Brooke, are all roles that are being sought after in this new revival. And I said this before, and by the way, this is from Dark Horizons, where I'm reading it from. But this yet again is what I told you the other day of like, this thing's closer than what that young lady keeps leading to be. Like, we have actual characters that they're looking to fill roles in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think once again, Sarah's just led us on a wild goose chase because we're here, baby.
Well, maybe she's just trying to not get too excited and see how it plays out again. Like, sometimes these things kind of just fall apart.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But looking at this, it seems very akin to the original show. I mean, we're going to have a jock. I think that's going to take place of the Charisma Carpenter role. I know you haven't watched it, but I think that's what it is. I think the nerdy dad is a nice change. A librarian, which Giles was the librarian. So it looks like we're going to play with the tropes of the former cast, but this looks fun. I'm telling you, I'm all in for DeathCurseClub just turning into a Buffy revival show.
I mean, I'm hoping at some point, maybe around season 3, Buffy crosses over with the Puniverse.
God damn it. Stop bringing it up. Stop trying to make poo happen. I already watched the one. I'll watch the second one next month. Okay, pal? All right. Really quickly. John Carpenter is set to score Bong Joon-ho's next film. He is the director of Mickey 17. He did Parasite, I believe, before that. Yep. His next film is set to be a horror film, and they were having a conversation on stage recently. And obviously, you could tell they had this conversation beforehand because it played pretty quickly on stage. But he has asked John Carpenter, Bong has asked John Carpenter to score his next movie, which is going to be a horror movie. And boy, oh boy, John saying okay to this. I'm in, baby. I think this gives the idea for whatever movie it's going to be is going to feel like a Carpenter flick. If I'm getting any guess out of this, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, I'm a big fan of both of them. So Carpenter coming back. I mean, anytime Carpenter's going to do the music of anything, that's always a win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think his musical style pairs well with what the director does.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's going to work really well.
Like, I'll give it this. Obviously, John Carpenter, he did the scores for most of his films, Halloween, In the Mouth of Madness, and stuff like that, vampires. But, like, when he does the score for, even in his own franchise, like, he did the score to David Gordon Green's Halloween, I would almost say I enjoy that score more so than the OG. And obviously time has passed, and that's kind of hard to, like, how are you going to say something's better? There's more technology. Hell, his kids and kid-in-law were a part of that project. And that's another thing. Do you think his kids are going to have a hand in this soundtrack as well?
Probably, because at this point, I think it's kind of just a group
effort. Yeah. It kind of does come off that way, especially with how old John is. I mean, what are we doing here? You know what I mean?
Well, he better not be too old. He's got to live at least another week.
Oh, that is a reference to both Jim and I, because GalaxyCon is this weekend. And if you are in the Virginia area, in Richmond, they have GalaxyCon. So many guests that are showing up to this thing. John Carpenter's finally coming in. We have the cast of Reno 911 coming in. Jonathan Frakes of Star Trek. What We Do in the Shadows, Gilmore and Nandor are going to be there. Like, a lot of horror love for more of a, I would say, general pop culture con. You know what I mean? Usually Nightmare weekends when they bring out so many of these horror guys. But I'm truly excited to finally meet John Carpenter and get this soundtrack signed by him. We're days away, baby. We're days
Days
away.
away.
All right, next up on our list, I don't have a picture here. Maybe I'll put a picture in post. We'll see. All right. Texas Chainsaw rights being sold around just one day after the rights to Jason Bourne franchise were being shopped around. Another long-running franchise is hitting the market. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Legendary Pictures has held the rights to this property since 2017. And recently, the IP returned to the rights holders, whoever Exerbia Films, okay, with boutique agency Venue now selling them around reports. Let's see. The most significant of those reportedly could see the teaming of Austin-born hunk Glenn Powell with Strange Darling filmmaker J.T. Molnar, and veteran producer Roy Lee. Another reportedly has It franchise director Andy Muschietti circling it. The original 74 film remains iconic, blah, 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 blah. Okay. All right. Nothing really to dive into. It started talking about Michael Bay, and I want to get out of this conversation. So from there, I think the big takeaway is the director of Strange Darling is considering doing a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And from what I've seen, Glenn Powell said, if he does it, I'll read the script. My original takeaways of this are, I fucking hate the quote of, if this guy's doing it, I'll read it, which absolutely says, I'm not doing this movie because I have no interest in being in a horror movie. It's just that the Strange Darling director has enough prestige for me to read this script. I have not seen Strange Darling. It is a movie that I do want to catch up, but from the trailer, I mean, like, it seems very like isolated type of movie, and that seems to work well for this guy. So this being said, I would love a well-regarded director to take charge and try to bring some gravitas, if you will. That being said, I don't see Glenn hopping on to this personally.
I think the director's a good fit. I actually like Strange Darling. I really enjoyed it. So the director, I think, is a good fit.
Okay.
I don't know. From what I read, he would be writing and directing.
Yeah. I think
that's his interest.
Since he was like, I'll read the script.
Yeah, and also, bringing in any sort of director that's already known within the genre. Plus, I'll go to get to Glenn Powell, but Glenn Powell is a name, so if he is involved, that's good too. Because Chainsaw has always kind of been like the bastard stepchild of slashers, where people are like, yeah, everyone knows who he is, but no one really cares. A lot of people don't care about those movies, essentially.
They seem to hanker in the original. Like, never, like, yes, Jessica Biel's 2003 was a remake, but the way they promoted it, the original 74. Once fucking those sequels from the last 10 years came out, the original, like, nothing ever felt as big as that original movie.
Yeah. As far as Glenn Powell goes, I mean, the quote doesn't really bother me. I think, the idea of saying, hey, I like this director. I don't know. I'm assuming he may or may not be from Texas as well. I don't know. And saying like, yeah, I'd like to read the script. I'd be interested. I'm like, okay. And otherwise not being interested. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with people wanting to work with directors. And I think Glenn Powell is kind of that one of those it names right now, or at least on the edge of being an it name right now. So anytime you bring in somebody like that into the genre is a win for the genre, because it has the potential of putting extra butts in the seats.
On paper, I love this idea. Like, Glenn Powell being a part of this, I think would be fantastic, because you're talking about a guy that was in Top Gun Maverick. He did Twisters. Supposedly Twisters 2 is going to be in the works. I'm sure they're doing another Top Gun. He'll be a part of that. He's a romantic comedy gold, blah, blah, blah. My issue is that as much as I would want him to do this, he does not come off as an actor that's just like, I'm going to do a horror movie now. Like, I forget who's the director. Who did Hitman? Soderbergh?
I think so, yeah.
I think Soderbergh. But like, when you look at that movie, like he co-wrote it, and like, you know, it's an action comedy. I mean, it's quirky as fuck, but whatever. But like, when I'm looking at Glenn Powell at the moment, he looks like the type of guy that's like, I'm only going to do safe things right now. I'm not going to do something that could, I don't want to use the word potentially damage his career, because I think if you do a chainsaw movie, a really good chainsaw movie, it's going to make money. But is he going to get stuck in this like, oh, I can't believe you did a slasher film? I think there's a difference when Jamie Lee Curtis comes back to the property, or when someone new like a Florence Pugh does Midsommar. I think when you do stuff like that, we're talking different type of horror movie. This, if they elevate it, if he does this fucking movie and half of it is just promotion of elevated horror from the studio that brought you Heretic, from fucking Hereditary or whatever the fuck it is, from fucking the director of this, from the start, like, I don't need that. Like, I don't need you to do the Troll Thunderbolts trailer where they make fun of Absolute Cinema. I don't need Absolute Cinema Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I just need a good movie. I need it to be gory, and I need Glenn Powell not to fucking bitch around.
Well, I mean, first, I don't think slasher movies necessarily have the stigma that they used to, say, back in the 80s. I mean, yeah, it's still not like high cinema by any means, but I don't think it's the kiss of death, nail in the coffin that it used
You
to be.
don't like, this is why I say this. And yes, they make money, but they've always made money. But here's where my like apprehension is. When I look at the Halloween franchise, yes, diminished returns from Halloween, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. But there was prestige on that first movie that people liked it, people wanted more, and then it went back down that slasher route, and then it got a lot of hate. And I'll be quite honest, I think Jamie Lee Curtis has tried very hard outside of that 2018 version to be like, we made it and we're done. Like, that's it. Oh, look, I'm in Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm doing all these. Like, it just seems with how slashers are taken outside of that one movie, The Strangers, they came out with Chapter 1. It may have fans, but it was universally panned by critics and it was universally panned by audience. So I think if anything in horror right now that has a tough time with critics and audience, it is a slasher movie.
Well, I think I'm going to be wrong, but I feel like Terrifier scored pretty high on things. At least the second one did.
I think the third has a tomato.
I think so too. Jamie Lee Curtis also has never been a huge fan of horror in general.
No,
he just does them, but she's not a fan of them. I don't know what Glenn Powell's interest is as far as horror goes. Also, I believe it said that he would be interested in producing and potentially starring. I don't think it's just like necessarily starring, so he could just be producing, which is fine, and you can throw his name on there.
I can fucking see him wanting to produce it, and with a production company and stuff like that. I 1000% can see that. I just don't see him starring in it, because it does feel like one of those movies that it's going to have a low budget. I'm not saying he costs a lot, but he may do one of those like, oh, I'll cameo kind of deals. I don't know. Like, I think there's more conversation to be here if once this script is being made and yada, yada, yada. I think there's definitely a lot more we could talk about.
He seems to be in that place in his career right now where he has the opportunity to work with whatever director he wants to, and he's taking those opportunities. I mean, if he seems to be, I mean, why else would he take Running Man with unless he's a fan of Edgar Wright? Because Running Man is not something that's going to be a guaranteed box office hit.
No, but but again, there's a difference between him signing on to do it or Maximum or Overdrive or Salem's Lot. You're talking director of Shaun of the Dead, director of Scott Pilgrim, director of
Baby Driver.
Baby Driver. You're talking a prestigious director who doesn't have many flaws. Again, as I said, yeah, he's choosing to work with directors, good directors. He's not choosing to work with Fede Alvarez, who is a good director, but it's horror. You get what I'm saying here?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. You better. All right. All right. I don't have a picture of the actual whatever, but I can throw up this picture of the Mummy. Jack Raynor from Midsommar is set to star in Evil Dead Rise directors Lee Cronin's new take on the Mummy for New Line Cinema, Atomic Monster, and Blumhouse. Production of the film begins next week in Ireland. Raynor is playing the husband and father who runs afoul of supernaturally sinister forces. Despite the name, the new film is not yet another reboot of the Universal classic franchise that began with Boris Karloff in 1932. So, you hear this, brother. What are we thinking?
I'm thinking it's going to be a reimagining, kind of like what they did with Invisible Man and Wolfman. Not a straight up mummy movie that everyone thinks they're going to get, and it's just going to hit the themes and the central character and put it into a different scenario.
Right. Well, so I have so many fucking thoughts. First thought, I like that kid. I think he's a nice up-and-comer actor. Like, he played well in Midsommar. That's the only thing I've seen. So I can't really base anything off of that. But my biggest takeaway about this is it is a Warner Brothers New Line Cinema production. It is not a Universal classic monster retelling. This said, produced by Blumhouse, who produced Invisible Man, Wolfman, and Atomic Monster. Is this a scenario where Universal Studios was like, Wolfman bombed, and we're not going to risk it again? If you can find a distributor for it, have fun, babies. Because I was under the impression, and that's only just because, like, I would think if you're calling the movie The Mummy, it was a part of the lore of Universal. Like, it is wild to me. It is not.
I mean, again, I just think as of right now, they're not really making those movies.
Mm-hmm.
So pass it off to the guy that is.
But see, this is my problem though, is like they were. I understand Universal's having a hard time with like the Wolfman, like this past one that came out. Like Invisible Man did well. And I know Dark Universe did not do well. The Mummy from 2017, I believe. But like, it shouldn't be that hard to make a monster movie and sell butts and seats for it. Because like, what's kind of blowing my mind here is that Epic Universe comes out in a matter of months. They were finger on the pulse geniuses, because you know what Universal did to ensure that they're going to have people come within the next year to that park? They are remaking live action How to Train Your Dragon.
Right.
They were like, let's remake it, make it live action, because you want to know why you want to do that? Because now a kid can look at real life and be like, I can be by those dragons. And there's a theme park where I can do that right now. It is blowing my mind that we haven't figured out to do a Dracula movie, a proper Wolfman movie, as much as I'm fine with that one. But like, you have a world in there called Dark Universe. And I'm not saying base it on that. I think Dark Universe, the world in Epic Universe, should just be in its own thing. But how are we not making a Universal Monsters Mummy movie, which has a ride at its original park? Mummy's going to be featured at Dark Universe. How did Warner Brothers get to do this movie? And I know, like, even Warner Brothers has The Bride coming out the following year. I know it got pushed or whatever. And I'm just blown away that Universal has dropped the goddamn ball on the monsters.
Well, sometimes the rights are tricky on these things, so that I don't know about.
Right.
It could be something like that behind the scenes.
Right.
And then the other thing is, I think if you were to start making movies, and even if that you're going to try to tie into your park, you're going to want to tie it into the parks, which means you're either going to want the movies to be based on, to look like those characters, or you're going to want the characters in the park to look like the ones in the movie.
Fair. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And I guess, I don't know. I just feel very like, to be quite honest, I know the movie is what it is. And I think, you know what? I think I might do a watch along to it on Zach Speakeasy Patreon, which is the Patreon for this show, when Epic Universe comes out, or at least when I can get closer to it to go. I want to watch Van Helsing because look-wise, I feel Van Helsing's way more like to that Dark Universe tone than any other movie that we have gotten. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad. What I am saying, though, is it's amazing to me that we can't have a Van Helsing movie come out now that could feature Dracula, could feature Frankenstein's monster, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, the Invisible Man. Like, yeah, I just need a Van Helsing movie to feature all the monsters so we can just sell this park. And I think that's what we need. Let's get Hugh on the phone. Let's get Hugh on the horn because he looks just the same as he did back then, maybe even better. Less tan, but better. And we could get this theme park rolling just like How to Train Your Dragon's doing. Just saying.
Van Helsing was a lot of fun when it came out.
I think so too. I think in its time, in the vacuum of 2004, 3, 4,
probably, yeah.
I was fine with it.
You had a cool black and white opening scene.
Yes!
It was before Steven Summers got completely up his ass with CGI.
It was before Steven Sommers was like, I'm going to do G.I. Joe and absolutely wreck it.
And have nobody from G.I. Joe in it.
And guess what? I haven't really heard from Steven Sommers much, except for Steven Midsommers. All right. Let's move on to our final topic at hand. Big combo coming in here. Boom, boom, boom. We have the lovely, the talented Linda Cardellini is set to lead the role in, Jesus Christ, Zach, is set for the lead role in Friday the 13th prequel series on Peacock. She will star as Pamela Voorhees in the expanded prequel series, which is titled Crystal Lake. The show was originally picked up straight to series for Peacock back in 2022. Jim, this is the most information we've gotten for the show. I know it's been rumored that she was going to be up there. And hell, there was a rumor at one point, Charlize Theron was rumored to be Pamela, but that never really saw light of day besides like a week's worth of rumor. And then it seemed like the show got quiet, but then it got picked back up once the Jason multiverse, whatever. Once Cunningham and all of them became friends again and they decided the Jason verse was a thing, that's when this show seemed to pick up steam again. And now this being said, with Linda coming on, what are your feelings? By the way, Jim and myself have done a couple Friday the 13th rewatches on the Thrill Me network, either Lounge or the Retro Network. So check those out. We did Friday the 13th 1 and 2, Core Memory Unlocked Horror. Check those out. But Jim, with Linda coming in doing this prequel series, what are your thoughts on this? A24 is doing it, Peacock, which is a Universal. I don't know how that fucking works, but cool. A24 got the rights to Jason to do this. What are we feeling now that it seems like the Jason verse is amongst us?
I'm officially ready for it and ready to root for Pamela to kill everybody.
Oh, baby.
Uh,
So do
I
you think?
like her. I'm a big fan. I think she's great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm ready for this show.
Yeah, I think she's a wonderful actress. I love her in the Scooby-Doo movies. I love her as Hawkeye's wife, and she's done so much more besides that. There was a Netflix show recently. I think it was it her and Christina Applegate?
Yep, Dead to Me.
Yeah, Dead to Me. Very fun. Like, I love that she's kind of finally getting the solo lead role flowers, which I think she rightfully deserves. I'm a huge fan of Charlize Theron. Like, when I heard that rumor that she was going to play it, beat still my heart. Favorite actress of all time. Then it went away. Then it came in with this. And there's been many of scenarios where it's been like, oh, this is rumored to play, and then it's somebody else, and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, what are we even talking about here? When I saw that she was being the lead of this, 100% my world was fine. I'm absolutely in love with this because I think she's the type of actress that's going to play loving, caring, and adoring. And then there's that sick son of a bitch side of her that can come out. And I think you're exactly right. I think this is going to play so well. I think we're going to start back when Jason's a kid. I mean, I think season 1 will be pre-death. I think it'll be like her hiding him or something like that. And then by the time we get to season 2, it's her like letting him come to the camp or whatever, and then he dies at the end. And then 3, it's like all hell breaks loose from her. And maybe it'll be quicker. Maybe it won't go that slowly of a progression. But I am truly excited to finally be back in the Friday the 13th verse. That this is great news for me. And where do you see the show starting?
I kind of thought it would start after he drowned, just so you don't even need to have the character in it, because it avoids.
Oh, really? You don't even think Jason will be in it?
I think it just avoids complications with the character. I don't know. It also depends on how you're going to approach it as far as, is this within the core universe, or is it a Bates Motel kind of situation where it's its own thing?
Right. See, I think not only is it its own thing, I think it's going to take liberties to kind of get us in a direction. So what I'm saying is, my perfect want is, no, I want him alive that first season, because like I said, we need to see loving and caring Pamela first. If he dies by the end of the first season, cool. But what I think will happen, I don't think Jason stays away. I think, as much as we live in a world where it's like, I don't want explanation, you and I said it on Core Memory Unlocked, and like, I've always thought this is like, well, if he's dead, how the fuck is he back for 2? Like, those questions exist for a reason. I'm okay when you explain this. I'm okay if one day Pamela fucking like steals the body and witchcrafts his ass back up. I'm okay if we explore the world of her wanting to pet cemetery her kid back to life. And I'm okay with further seasons, like almost transitioning from Pamela being the killer to Jason is becoming a killer. And then she finally, like, we get to that first movie's or the whole movie of just, you know, the end of the series is her head getting fucking lopped off. I'm okay with that. But I do feel like this show's length will only be 5 seasons if it gets picked up past 1. And I think all the like questions that have been at like, who's Jason's father and stuff like that, I think that's all going to play in this, just so that when they finally start the Friday the 13th film franchise, Jason's front and center. Jason's adult version of him, Magaloid looking motherfucker. And here we go.
Well, I think if you're going to try to run 5 seasons and you're going to keep her around for all 5 seasons, then yeah, you probably need Jason around for at least one, at least pre-drowning. I think you're going to have to alter his handicap status a little bit. I don't know what direction you go with that.
Interesting.
The hardest explanation for me within a show is explaining why she thinks he's dead if he's just kind of out there living in the woods for multiple seasons and not coming in contact with her. Like that's the weirdest part of the whole.
I get what you're saying.
That's the weirdest part of the whole franchise is the fact that they're like, no, he didn't really die. He just didn't go back home.
Okay. And this is just me, producer, spitballing. What if it is that Pet Cemetery type of situation where she tries to bring him back, it does not work, and the moment she's killed, a hex of some sort is what brings him back. And like when he is back, he comes looking for her body and sees her fucking headless, grabs the head and goes. But again, like there's so much about that, like, because he was a kid when he died. But then in part 2, he's an adult. And I believe, now, I don't know if we talked this on our podcast, but like, I know part 2 took 5 years later than part 1. So at the beginning, when he kills the original survivor, is that 5 years later?
No, that's actually months.
It's only months?
Yeah, it's like 6 months or so after part 1.
Okay. So then 6 months, I killed this broad. And then 5 years later, someone's trying to do it again. And I've been living here.
Yeah.
Okay. I still think, because again, we didn't see how big he was. I mean, fucking technically, Jason at the beginning of part 2 could have been a 13-year-old boy, 14-year-old.
Yeah. Well, he could have, I mean, within the confines of the show, if you're doing your own thing, you can have him drown. At the end of season 1, if you want to keep him around and try to establish that relationship. But if she's not crazy yet, then I don't know what kind of a show you have necessarily.
Right.
But anyway, let's just say, or you kill him have him drown at the end of the first episode. So you have that like banger moment at the end of the episode, the premiere. Right. And then you can still have the Jason character there in her mind because she does talk to him. She does see him and kind of like, I'm doing it for you, Jason. I'm kill them all, mommy, kill them all. And so you can have that interaction with her and her dead son. And we never need to establish within the show that he was still alive, that we can just scratch that whole part. He doesn't need to be alive because like you said, we can bring him back with the Necronomicon Book of the Dead that they used in part 9.
God, yeah, let's do it.
To bring him back at the end of the series, or at least even the final season, that she tries to bring him back in voodoo.
Ash is Jason's dad.
Yeah.
It's just like that feeds right into Ash vs. Evil Dead, where he's just plowing girls in his trailer. That's exactly what Ash did. He plowed Voorhees.
I mean, come on, we got Linda Cardellini who wouldn't.
And fuck it, let's just go on and stream here. The first movie, when they announced Friday the 13th, you're like, God damn, it's a horror movie. Fuck that. It's Jason finds his dad. It becomes a buddy comedy.
I'm going to go out there and try to be Jason's dad.
I'm in to all of this. And obviously, we're just speculating. We have no idea where things are going to take place outside that it's going to be on Crystal Lake and what happens on Crystal Lake, like whether the first season could technically be pre-Jason. The first season could be that fucking she gets knocked up. But she has a killer into, she still could be psycho.
The other thing we have to look at is I wouldn't think it would be that far back just based off of the age of the actress.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying she couldn't be, but I'm just saying in general.
Well, okay, so the first movie, I mean, it was like 60 something when she killed the counselors at the beginning, and then it was like 10 years later or something. And Betsy Palmer probably at that point was like 55, 60.
I don't even think she was that old. I
She
think
wasn't even that goddamn. People look old back then, baby.
I know, don't they? When
Don't
you
they
realize you're older than like Edith Bunker and all that other, and catching up to the Golden Girls.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, yeah. I mean, it could actually be. You might be on the right track of like all that shit went down already, and this is like post Jason's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. God damn, I'm interested. I'm interested in this. What say you, kind watchers and viewers of this show, the Death Curse Club? What are your thoughts on everything we talked about? What are your thoughts on the Leatherface movie that's coming? This subject we're talking about, Friday the 13th, Crystal Lake, any of the trailers that we watched and I reacted to. I reacted to that Final Destination one. Check it out. Like I said, it's in the description, or just look at the Death Curse Club's YouTube channel. Jim, once again, thanks for coming on. Hey, you want to plug anything?
Yeah, what do you think about Buffy season 3 when she takes on the Puniverse?
You'll never come back again. It's not a death curse.